Hey podcast listeners, I'm Rick Bennett, host of Gospel Tangents. If you're enjoying the show, I was wondering if you could do me a favor. Please go to iTunes and write a review. It will be important feedback for me, and it will also help us attract more listeners. The more listeners we can get, the more resources we can build. Thanks again for your help, and appreciate you listening. We're continuing our discussion with Jim Vun Cannon, a counselor in the First Presidency of the Remnant Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In this episode, we'll talk about whether he believes the Book of Mormon is a literal history or simply a foundational scripture as the community of Christ believes. We'll also ask him some of the questions of critics. How does he handle evidence of DNA in the Book of Mormon? Check out our conversation. All right, so let's talk about the Book of Mormon. We've talked about that. I know in the LDS Church, most people, I think, believe it's a literal history. Mm-hmm. It seems like in the community of Christ, most probably don't.
I would say you're probably right.
So where does the Remnant Church fit on that spectrum?
We believe it was an absolute literal history.
Okay.
We believe that there were Lamanites and Nephites and Jacobites and Josephites and all the different ites that were here upon the land. Now, obviously there's a good debate on where they really were, exactly for North and South America and so forth, and where maybe in North America and so forth. But yes, we do believe that it was a literal people that were here.
Now, I know that probably for more than 100 years, the dominant narrative was kind of North and South America, and that Panama was kind of the narrow neck of land. It seems like, at least in the LDS Church lately, I'm trying to remember his name. I don't know why I'm missing that for a minute, but anyway, they call it the limited geography theory. Kind of the Yucatan Peninsula, kind of Mexico, Central America area. I know there's even some few theories. I've actually got another interview that I will probably be posting before this. There's a researcher in Utah who believes that it was the Baja Peninsula, Baja, okay. California, yeah. So I've heard a lot of theories. It's actually kind of one of my big things. Do you have any opinions on where that might have taken place?
I can give you an opinion, and it would be conjecture, but I almost kind of believe that because there has been so little excavated here in the United States, that it kind of leads me to thinking that maybe Michigan, Wisconsin, that area, somewhere in that portion of the United States, that there were maybe that they lived there at that time. There seems to be some correlations there, but here again, it's a puzzle that you could put together, and you could say that it was the Panama, the connection, or the Yucatan, that you could say the narrow neck of land where it might have actually been. I know that's one of the key primers everybody's looking for, but that's kind of one of the thoughts I'd had. But
so have you heard of Rodney Meldrum? Because he's kind of, they refer to that area kind of as the Heartland theory. Have you heard of that?
The Heartland theory, yes, I have heard of that, and I unfortunately have not had a chance to hear his work, so I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, I'll have to interview Rodney too. So one of the big, I guess, knocks against the Book of Mormon is DNA. A guy by the name of Simon Southerton, Australian researcher, has said, you don't find any evidence of DNA. So either, I think the LDS, well, I won't say the LDS Church's response, because the LDS Church, I believe, is neutral on the issue. But a lot of LDS researchers have said, well, the population was probably a lot smaller, and so you wouldn't have any evidence of that. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think that whole study, I feel there was a motive to putting together that research, first of all. I don't feel that was fair and scientific in the way that it was done. Not considering, if you really want to look at the groups of the people, you could argue that Ishmael, is that really the name of a good practicing Jew? I don't know, but I have a lot of questions. And oh, by the way, how many peoples actually came to, the Americas? I'll just put it that way. We know it's somewhere here, right? How many different people came? Well, there were a lot of people, and they're finding a lot of archaeological evidence of a lot of people. So to say that we know that all the Indians were Lamanites, I think is really a fallacy. I don't think you can really say that. They may or may not be. We really don't know which ones really are or aren't. And so for them to go forward and try to put together DNA evidence based on that, plus the other thing is that you're talking about many, many generations back, and trying to argue that you've got somebody that you can match DNA with from that time period to this time period. I don't think that science is quite there yet for that. I really think that it's we got them. You know, we're going to disprove the Book of Mormon in one fell swoop, and it's just kind of like, no, guys, I don't think so. I just don't think that, you know, from my background in being in engineering, I don't really feel like all the boxes were checked. I don't really feel like it was an exhaustive study. I don't really think that here again, I felt like there was more of a motive for putting together the research instead of actually looking at it objectively. So,
let me just point out one other thing. This is actually going to come up in my interview with David Rosenthal. There was I don't know if you probably never heard of the Lemba tribe in Africa.
No, I don't think I have.
So there was a study done. So the Lemba tribe is this black African tribe. They claim that they left Jerusalem about the same time as Lehi, which is interesting.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
And so they traveled through southern Africa, and they claim to be descendants of Jews. Now these are just black as black people
Sure,
could be.
sure.
So some anthropologists have gone through and they've said, wow, this is kind of amazing because this Lemba tribe actually has a lot of Jewish customs that date to the Old Testament time.
Yeah.
And they did a DNA test. And the DNA test showed that they had Jewish DNA.
That's interesting.
And
Okay.
so that has been one of my, I love the Book of Mormon. I think it's a wonderful book. Book of Mormon geography has been one of my favorite pet topics. The biggest struggle for me, because I have heard people say, kind of similar with you, I don't know about that DNA stuff. But I feel like, you know, we have found a black African tribe with Jewish DNA that dates from the time. And so I do have a problem with the argument when people say, I don't know. Because it does seem to me that the DNA testing is pretty good. But let me just go back to even.
Well, let me tell you just so, because you're talking about the DNA testing. I think the DNA testing can prove a lot of things. I'm not trying to disprove DNA testing at all. It's the argument that I have is that the groups and the sample sets that they actually came up with, that's where I have questions of how did you set that versus, you know, because where did you go? Did you go to every single tribe and you've got cataloged every single person that you knew was absolutely 100% true, full blood, you know, you follow what I'm saying? You follow that through, where versus this tribe that you're talking about, we believe they were Manasseh. So you know, there's a number of arguments. We could go down that rabbit trail, but we probably shouldn't do that. But you see what I'm saying? That's where I'm getting at. So like them saying that for this tribe, I can believe that. But the reason I can is because that set that they're working with is very different than the set they're trying to prove over here with, you know, the vastness of the United States or even the Americas, and then trying to say, you know, here's what it is.
I hope you enjoyed our discussion with Jim. In our next episode, we'll learn just how important the law of consecration is in building communities with the Remnant Church.
Everybody has their own paycheck, has their own monies. It's out of their own volition to do so that, hey, so-and-so needs this or whatever, or they consecrate that surplus to the bishop, and the bishop then, of course, can, at a greater level, look at who needs what and then provide that to them.
Click here to subscribe, click here for a transcript, and over here you'll see some other videos that we've done here on YouTube. We hope you'll use this as a valuable resource to learn more about Mormon history.